Book nibbles. Big ideas, small bites. David Goggins Can't Hurt Me. Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds is more than a memoir. It's a manifesto on the human potential to endure, transform, and conquer both external adversity and internal limitations. From his harrowing childhood through Navy SEAL training, ultra-endurance feats, and extraordinary accomplishments, Goggins lays bare a life forged in struggle, and he invites readers to confront their own mental barriers with relentless honesty. The book's central thesis is simple yet profound. Suffering, when embraced intentionally and strategically, is the vehicle for personal transformation, and the mind is the ultimate tool for defying limits. Goggins' life story, filled with extreme hardships and seemingly insurmountable challenges, illustrates not only resilience but the deliberate cultivation of a mindset capable of conquering fear, doubt, and pain. The narrative begins in Goggins' childhood, marked by violence, poverty, and racial prejudice. He grew up in a home dominated by a physically and emotionally abusive father, Toughness Goggins, whose anger and cruelty shaped young David's early perceptions of the world. The father's rigid and often sadistic discipline instilled fear and trauma, and David witnessed firsthand the brutal consequences of a life dominated by aggression and intimidation. Goggins describes instances of being forced to work long hours, endure verbal degradation, and cope with unpredictable punishments, leaving deep emotional scars. In school, he faced additional challenges: systemic racism, learning difficulties, and physical limitations that made him a target for bullies. These early experiences created a foundational narrative of suffering, but they also laid the groundwork for the core principle he would later articulate. Suffering is inevitable, but how one responds defines identity, capability, and destiny. One of the earliest and most powerful lessons from Goggins' youth is the confrontation with the limits of self-perception. He recounts being told repeatedly that he was weak, slow, and incapable, internalizing these narratives while simultaneously yearning for something more. Yet even in these circumstances, a seed of defiance began to grow. Goggins discovered that endurance is often built in isolation, in moments of private pain where no one else is watching, and that confronting discomfort, physically, emotionally, and psychologically, can catalyze transformation. He emphasizes that true growth occurs outside the comfort zone, in the deliberate pursuit of difficulty, a lesson he would carry throughout his life. Goggins' early adulthood was defined by attempts to break free from the constraints of his past. He describes struggling with obesity, weighing over 300 pounds, feeling trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and unhealthy habits. Despite his intelligence and ambitions, he realized that his mind and body were weak, shackled by years of neglect, trauma, and internalized fear. It was in this crucible of self-loathing and determination that Goggins began experimenting with self-discipline and incremental challenges. The process of transformation began with what he calls the accountability mirror, a tool for radical self-honesty. Standing in front of a mirror, he would confront himself with uncomfortable truths, recognizing his failures, acknowledging excuses, and creating actionable commitments to change. This practice of brutal honesty is central to Goggins' philosophy. To achieve extraordinary results, one must first face the unvarnished reality of personal limitations. Goggins' first major test came with his entry into the Air Force and his attempt to join the elite pararescue program. Here he encountered the rigid hierarchy, intense training regimens, and mental stressors that would foreshadow the extreme challenges of Navy SEAL training. Although he initially failed to complete the pararescue pipeline, the experience taught him that failure is not a permanent state but a signal to adapt, improve, and persist. Each setback became an opportunity to recalibrate his mindset and approach, a lesson he later applies in every arena of physical and mental challenge. He writes candidly about the shame, humiliation, and physical pain of failing, sleep deprivation, grueling physical tasks, and repeated evaluations, but emphasizes that the discomfort is not a deterrent but a proving ground for mental toughness. Goggins' journey to becoming a Navy SEAL is one of the most compelling arcs in the book. After deciding to pursue SEAL training, he faced extraordinary physical and mental obstacles. He was underweight and out of shape compared to typical candidates, suffering from asthma and a previous injury that made rigorous exercise difficult. Nevertheless, he committed fully to the process, undertaking months of intense conditioning, long-distance running, calisthenics, and swimming. Goggins introduces readers to the concept of the cookie jar, a mental repository of past victories and instances of overcoming adversity. When facing extreme discomfort, recalling previous moments of success provides a mental anchor, a reminder that one is capable of more than current circumstances suggest. The cookie jar is both a motivational tool and a strategy for psychological resilience, helping him endure Hell Week, grueling SEAL training exercises, and the mental games designed to push candidates to their breaking points. Throughout Hell Week, Goggins faced brutal training scenarios, continuous physical exertion, exposure to the elements, sleep deprivation, and psychological stress designed to strip candidates of ego and confidence. He describes moments when his body ached, his lungs burned, and his mind pleaded for escape. Yet he repeatedly refused to quit, employing visualization, self-talk, and the cookie jar to maintain focus. He stresses that mental toughness is not innate but cultivated. It is built by consistently confronting pain, resisting surrender, and expanding the perceived limits of what one can endure. These lessons are transferable beyond SEAL training. Goggins' argument is that anyone can develop extraordinary resilience by systematically seeking challenges, embracing discomfort, and refusing to allow fear to dictate actions. Goggins' narrative is punctuated by extreme physical feats that illustrate the principles he teaches. One of the most striking examples is his foray into ultra-endurance events, including 100-mile races and multi-day ultramarathons. He recounts training with obsessive intensity, logging hundreds of miles per month, and often training in extreme weather conditions. Each event is described not merely as a physical test but as a crucible of the mind. He explains the 40% rule, his observation that when the mind tells you you are done, you are actually only at 40% of your true capacity. This rule reframes suffering as a signal that one can push further, endure more, and transcend perceived limits. Ultra-endurance challenges serve as a metaphor for life. The ability to confront discomfort, maintain discipline, and persist through adversity is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle for mediocrity. Another recurring theme is the concept of callousing the mind. Just as hands develop calluses through physical labor, the mind can be strengthened through repeated exposure to hardship and voluntary discomfort. Goggins shares exercises designed to build mental calluses, deliberately performing tasks that are unpleasant, engaging in cold exposure, fasting, and undertaking physical challenges without guarantees of success. These practices reinforce a tolerance for pain and a capacity to operate under stress. The underlying philosophy is that most people avoid pain and discomfort, which limits their growth. By seeking difficulty intentionally, Goggins argues, individuals expand their potential, gain confidence in their resilience, and develop a mindset capable of facing unforeseen challenges. Goggins also provides practical insights into goal setting and discipline. He emphasizes setting audacious, measurable goals and breaking them into incremental steps. He calls this taking souls, a term for outperforming expectations in ways that inspire oneself and others. He shares examples from both military and civilian life, completing long-distance runs in extreme heat, setting pull-up records, or tackling physically impossible missions. The principle is consistent. The path to extraordinary achievement is paved with consistent, deliberate action, the accumulation of small victories, and the willingness to embrace discomfort as a tool rather than an obstacle. Accountability and self-reflection recur as essential tools throughout the book. Goggins details how he maintained journals, tracked progress meticulously, and constantly evaluated his performance against objectives. Failure is not stigmatized but analyzed, dissected, and leveraged for improvement. He emphasizes radical ownership of outcomes. Blaming circumstances, genetics, or external forces is a distraction from the only variable one can truly control, the mind and the actions it directs. This mindset aligns with his broader philosophy. Life will inevitably present suffering, unfairness, and adversity. Mastery comes not from avoidance but from embracing the struggle and controlling how one responds. Goggins' story is also a testament to the interplay between physical and mental endurance. He demonstrates repeatedly that pushing physical limits strengthens the mind, and cultivating mental resilience allows one to endure extreme physical trials. One particularly striking example is his record-setting pull-up attempt, which required months of deliberate practice, pain tolerance, and mental conditioning. He describes every failed repetition, every tremor of fatigue, and every temptation to quit, highlighting the mental calculus involved in continuing despite exhaustion. The broader lesson is that physical challenges are conduits for developing discipline, patience, and perseverance, qualities that extend to all domains of life. The book is unapologetically raw about suffering and trauma. Goggins revisits childhood abuse, bullying, and periods of despair, underscoring that personal growth is inseparable from confronting one's darkest experiences. He argues that the discomfort many avoid is precisely what cultivates strength, character, and courage. By reframing pain as an opportunity rather than a setback, he shows that anyone can recontextualize obstacles as accelerants for growth. This perspective shifts the narrative from victimhood to empowerment. Life is not about what happens to you but about how you choose to respond. Goggins also examines the importance of visualization and mental rehearsal. He recounts visualizing missions, races, and feats before undertaking them, mentally preparing for worst-case scenarios and rehearsing strategies for overcoming obstacles. This preparation reduces fear, increases confidence, and primes the mind to endure real-world adversity. The psychological component, he stresses, is often the difference between success and failure. Mental rehearsal allows the brain to anticipate challenges, conserve energy, and maintain focus when pain and fatigue threaten to overwhelm. Throughout the book, Goggins emphasizes consistency over motivation. Motivation is fleeting, he argues, and relies on external stimuli, while discipline and habit are enduring. He describes routines, rituals, and self-imposed challenges that enforce discipline even when motivation wanes. Waking up early for training, running in extreme weather, and adhering to strict dietary and sleep regimens are examples of building an internal structure that enforces growth regardless of emotional state. This principle underpins his philosophy that sustained effort, not inspiration, produces extraordinary results. Goggins' narrative is punctuated with a series of challenges at the end of each chapter, urging readers to apply the lessons to their own lives. These are practical exercises, ranging from journaling honestly about weaknesses, taking cold showers, performing extra physical reps, or setting an audacious goal, that force readers to confront their comfort zones. The challenges embody the book's ethos. Personal transformation is inseparable from action, and reflection alone is insufficient. By integrating the lessons into daily life, readers can begin to experience incremental growth and gradually expand their perceived limits. The book also explores the interplay between suffering and identity. Goggins explains that enduring hardship intentionally not only builds strength but reshapes self-perception. By repeatedly confronting challenges, individuals internalize a sense of capability and resilience that becomes part of their identity. He contrasts his own evolution, from a fearful, overweight young man to a Navy SEAL, ultra-endurance athlete and record holder, with the process by which ordinary people can redefine their own potential. Identity is not static. It is forged through deliberate action, struggle, and consistent reinforcement of capability. Goggins' memoir is equally instructive about failure and recovery. He recounts episodes where he was physically injured, mentally exhausted, or emotionally drained, yet managed to persist by reframing setbacks as temporary states rather than endpoints. For example, during ultramarathons he describes hallucinations, dehydration, and excruciating pain, yet maintains focus by breaking the race into small segments, focusing only on the next step, the next mile, or the next physical motion. This micro-focused approach allows the mind to process overwhelming challenges in manageable increments, preserving the ability to persist when the broader picture seems impossible. Another powerful element is Goggins' discussion of accountability to oneself. He emphasizes that external validation is fleeting and unreliable. The only meaningful measure of growth is self-assessment against personal standards. This radical internal accountability fosters resilience, encourages honesty, and ensures that progress is sustainable. Goggins illustrates this through anecdotes from training, competitive events, and personal struggles, showing that the act of confronting one's failures openly and deliberately strengthens character and prepares one for future adversity. By the final chapters, the book culminates in a synthesis of its principles. Embrace suffering, take radical ownership, push beyond perceived limits, cultivate mental calluses, set audacious goals, and use discipline to create lasting transformation. Goggins insists that anyone can apply these lessons, whether in physical pursuits, career challenges, or personal growth. The narrative returns to the central theme. The mind is the ultimate lever, and mastery over one's thoughts, perceptions, and responses is the key to defying odds, achieving excellence, and transcending limitations. Can't Hurt Me is more than a memoir. It is a practical guide to unlocking human potential through suffering, discipline, and deliberate discomfort. Goggins demonstrates that resilience is not innate but cultivated, identity is malleable, and true growth occurs when we embrace challenges that others avoid. The stories, lessons, and challenges embedded in the text provide both inspiration and concrete strategies, making the book a blueprint for anyone seeking to master their mind and achieve goals once considered impossible. In essence, the book challenges readers to stop asking, "Can I?" and start asking, "How much more can I endure?" A question whose answer defines the limits of personal greatness. And that's it. David Goggins Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.